Dance with me, everybody.
Welcome to Read My Lips Radio, a lively hour of unscripted conversations with savvy creatives. Producer and host, aka Radio Red, asks novelists, artists, photographers, designers, comedians, actors, musicians, composers, screenwriters, directors, and technology innovators about their creative passion, inspirational muses, and how they create. Ooh, how those lips can talk. Now, here's aka Radio Red.
Thank you to the voice who gets me on the air every Monday. I'm aka Radio Red, and this is the only place I want to be Monday afternoons. Been doing this show for years, and it's just a delight and a thrill to speak with interesting creatives. You can all put the word creative, by the way, on your business card now with a capital C, because you have been anointed a creative by aka Radio Red. Happy to be here, and I have three brand new guests. They're panelists, they're creatives. I have only met them for exactly 2 minutes and probably 4.5 seconds at a recent National Publicity Summit virtually, and I decided on the spot, wow, they're interesting people. I want them on my show, and they accepted the invitation. Are you free on May 18th? Yes, I am. So here we are. Before we really get started, I have to tell you that this is May 18th. It is 7 months and 13 days, 32 weeks and 3 days, and 227 calendar days till the end of the year. Joanne, I want you to take note of that. It's very, very important. We're going to do a quick shout out to my good friend, LLL, lovely, lanky Laura Legs. Haven't heard from her in a while, but I know she's listening. And today is Tina Fey's birthday. The lady is 56. Actress, comic, writer, producer, the first Saturday Night Live female head writer. We know her from 30 Rock and all that. And country singer George Strait, who has had 18 consecutive #1 hits, is 74 today. Is anybody here a Harry Potter fan? Dixon or ladies, anybody?
I'm definitely a George Strait fan.
Okay, well, there you go. You can send him a happy birthday card. There's a lady who's 85 today named Miriam Margolyes, Golyes, and she was Professor Sprout in the Harry Potter movies. I want you all to know that. So see, Joanne, I knew it would resonate with somebody. So now I'm going to do my introduction, and I hope you all enjoy this. So here we go. Let's go. Welcome to the Creativity Show, where real life stories take flight. aka Radio Red on her Scarlett Mic is streaming live, and her lipstick is bright. I had to rhyme that. The roaming of creativity, our topic, takes center stage today, where resilience, reinvention, and resolve are lighting the way. Dixon, wave hello. Joanne Chitwood, wave hello. And Susan McKeown, did I say that right? I think so, are at our round table here. Creative voices sharing their journeys, thoughtful and sincere. We'll explore how creativity helps our spirits roam anew, with courage, with humor, with heartfelt wisdom, all shining through. And now I have a gift for each of you, and Dixon, you're first. Let me take a sip here. I'll just swallow. Here we go. Raised an army brat with many new beginnings to embrace, Dixon crossed through towns and continents, adapting place to place. In a staunch Catholic household where discipline shaped his days, he learned wit and creativity through ever-changing ways. The new kid in the classroom, he turned humor into art with sarcasm, self-deprecation, and laughter from deep in his heart. Later, a Maryland State running champion, his distance victories led the way, while dreams of journalism called to Dixon, 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 from Colorado far away. Then life delivered twists and turns that pulled him off his track until a mountain biking crash helped summon his spirit to come back. Wow. Now adventurer, author, and guide through life's next open door, Dixon helps men find their true north and boldly dream once more. Dixon, I hope you enjoyed that.
That was cool as hell. Thank you so much.
I've never heard cool as hell before. I thought it was hot down there. Thank you. You're welcome. Let's go to Joanne. Joanne was raised a wanderer from her earliest days of life, from Miami shores to Alaska's wilds through change and movement rife. Just 6 weeks old when travel began, with adventures still in store, the first of 67 moves that each opened countless new doors. Joanne learned to quickly adapt as new schools and new friendships came, creating stories in her mind to help make sense of every name. Her Coast Guard father later was a lighthouse keeper by the sea, where Joanne and her brothers' beachside pirate tales and movie dreams ran free. Her mother filled their home with books and inspiration's guiding light, while stories sparked imagination morning, noon, and into the night. Now a nurse, author, and guide through life's most meaningful terrain, Joanne reminds us that creativity helps our journeys all sustain. Joanne, welcome. I hope you like that.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. And Susan. In Hartford, Connecticut, with 4 siblings by her side, young Susan had the ironing job among the family duties they all tried. Her father served the FBI, her mother guided the home with care, while books and writing filled Susan's world with inspiration everywhere. At 8, an appendix surgery unexpectedly changed her view. A meanie nurse inspired a lifelong vision and mission of what she'd someday do. From pediatric care through 41 years of healing hearts and lives, Susan has brought compassion, care, and strength, ensuring hope survives. She's raised 4 children, built a business, and helped strong marriages grow, speaking to thousands of couples on what love and commitment can show. Now an author, blogger, and advocate helping relationships dance anew, Susan shows how creativity and connection help us carry on and go through. Susan, I hope you enjoyed that.
Very much. That was lovely.
I'm glad. Now let me finish this part. So gather round where the cool kids and the cool vibes sway. You can all start to sway now as we dive deep into creativity today. akaRadioRed's energy is lighting the way. We hope to inspire you to live large, love life, and play. So now you've all been officially welcomed by Radio Red. Dixon, how'd I do?
Oh my gosh, I love that.
I'm glad.
I feel the creativity coming through the screen. Thank you so much.
You're awesome. Welcome. You're very, very welcome. Ladies, I hope you enjoyed yours. And now what I'd like to do is go around the table. Dixon, I'm putting you on speaker view officially. Welcome. And we'd like to hear a little more about you. And I think, a book cover in the background there. Why don't you tell us what you're up to these days?
Yeah.
And take a couple minutes. Welcome.
Yeah. Boy, I'll tell you, my creative journey started in college. I wanted to be a writer and a runner and an adventurer. And instead of doing all that, I doubled down on something I call misalignment. And I ended up getting with the wrong person and getting into the wrong career. So instead of being a writer, I became a blackjack dealer, if you can believe that. And so I went to sleep for 25 years and I stuffed my creativity down, and I put a sock in it. And so I'm just now, Tina Fey's not the only one who's 56, by the way. I just turned last week.
Oh,
last month, a couple weeks ago.
Birthday.
Yeah. But my point is, I'm just now, as of 4 years ago, this past Friday was my birthday, my rebirth day, I call it. The day that I launched off Lookout Mountain in Colorado as a paraglider. And that was a dream I had 25 years ago. So in essence, kind of went to sleep for a long time, almost died from a medical emergency in 2014, and then started asking him, shallow questions like, who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? And
surely you deaf.
Yeah. And so as life would have it, my creativity, after I launched myself off that mountain, it had me look at other parts of my life that I could fix and become my true self, right? So that's why I'm writing a book. It's called Hold My Beer. I'm going back in the game, and it's all about what you'd expect from a guy who went to sleep for 25 years and lived someone else's life. So
quite a story. Yeah. Very, very interesting. Yes, I hope you'll send me an ebook when it's ready, because I would very much like to read it. I've named today's episode The Roaming of Creativity, partly in your honor, Dixon. I have to come up with a different word every week, ladies and gentlemen, and I've been doing this show for years. You can imagine 50 titles a year. I'm running out of words. So thank you very much for that. Very, very interesting, and you tell it so well. Let's go to Joanne. I'm putting you on speaker view. Officially welcome to the Creativity Show. Joanne Chitwood, tell us a little more about yourself, please.
Thank you, Red. I probably my creativity came from all the moves. I had to have some way to stay in touch with who I am. So I wrote my first little book when I was 8 and continued to write after that. I I sold my first story for money when I was 18. And then I wrote like 65 articles after that. And it all came from, my dad was a hugely curious person. We moved a lot, so there was a lot of upheaval in our lives, but he was, every place we went, he wanted to know everything about it. He built his own Christavia airplane and flew it. He was a pilot. He became a what do you call it, mechanic for planes, so he could service his own plane. He made Indian pack baskets. And I followed him around like a little puppy all the time because he was so curious about life. And I ended up, I think I probably would have been anyway, because I have that personality, but curious about everything. And my way of exploring life was to write about it. I kept journals all along. I just, things would just be so compelling to me. I would have to write them down. And so I did a series of horse stories. I always had horses. I always loved horses. I did a series of horse stories for teens. I did a cookbook. I did a bread baking book because I love to bake bread. So it's like everything I was interested in, I needed to put it down in words for it to make sense to me. It was just the way my brain worked.
They say write about what you know. Fascinating. And how did you get where did you get all of these articles published? Did you apply to magazines that were on the topic, or how did you do that?
I subscribed to Writer's Digest Book Club.
Okay.
And I have a whole shelf of books. I still have all of them. I have a whole shelf of books teaching how to do magazine articles, write books for kids, write nonfiction books, write fiction books. I devoured them. Malcolm Gladwell says if you put 10,000 hours in, you'll be an expert in something. I'll tell you, I put way more than 10,000 hours in studying how to write and then writing, just writing and writing and writing.
Thank you. Well, I'll tell you a quick overlap. Susan, just bear with me for a second here. I belong casually to the Writer's Digest weekly and Poem a Day challenge groups online.
Oh.
And we get a prompt from the senior editor, Robert Lee Brewer, every Wednesday morning, and I write between 1 and 5 poems every Wednesday. But in April and November, it's a prompt a day. It's not a competition. It's called the Poem a Day Challenge. And I write on average 3 poems every day during the month of April. I've been doing this since 2023, and I have about 800 poems I've written. And I come up with I will read a couple to you all at the end of the show today. But when you said Writer's Digest, the light bulb went off, and I said, I know the group, and the poetry group is just fascinating, interesting people from all over the world. And I'm kind of the class clown. I like to do the comedy and the fun poems and a lot of acrostics and alliteration and all kinds of words that all start with the same letter. And I just have a blast. So anyway, thank you for mentioning that. That's wonderful. And Susan, let's put you on speaker view, and we'd love to get to know more about you. So officially, welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Red. I had more of a traditional childhood, staying in one place with parents. And as you alluded to, appendicitis at age 8, when I had a nurse who was rather mean to me, meaning that she didn't tell me when I was getting a shot and instead put an IV in that lasted 12 hours. And that wasn't very nice. And I think that's what made me say, I think I'm going to be a nurse and I'm going to be nicer than that. So I held on to that dream and became a nurse, and then later on a pediatric nurse practitioner, and had the 4 children. But along the way, one of my favorite classes with all the sciences was English. I just always loved writing and reading things, and just somewhere it was in the back of my mind. So all I could do was do little scrappy things, take a writing course once in a while when I could fit it in. But then when I retired 12 years ago, I had the chance to go to grad school. I decided to go get an MFA in creative writing. And it was just a lot of fun with me. Needless to say, I was the oldest one in the class. We did it a lot online, but we had 4 retreats. And so I showed up with cookies for everybody, but I had a great time. And that's when I finished writing my second book, Beyond the Tango, a guide for couples juggling careers, kids, and chaos. And I had always been naive, I'd have to say, and romantic about marriage, to the point where on our wedding night, I said to my husband, by the way, I really want to write a book about marriage. He goes, oh my God, Susan, who says that on their wedding night? And I said, oh, well, I just it's just exciting to me that we're starting our life together. I think it will be great. He said, just don't base it on tonight, honey. It'll be a short story. Oh dear. But anyway, he came home 2 weeks later with a journal and said, here, start writing. So it took me a long time to get to the point, as I said, when I retired to go to grad school. But I just love it. So I do a blog every 2 weeks. And my purpose is to support couples, those who choose to get married, but also to have healthy relationships and harmony at home. It makes a whole difference in the world. So that's
lovely. And I love the name of your book. Will you hold that up one more time for us, please?
Beyond the Tango.
Beyond the Tango.
Careers, Kids, and Chaos.
It's the Careers, Kids, and Chaos that got me. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I want to mention to the three of you that years ago when I was doing the show, as Read My Lips, I changed it to the Creativity Show, hoping it'll hit the algorithms a little better. Who knows? Anyway, we used to talk about what is creativity, and the word courage came up, and the word confidence came up, but Joanne, the word curiosity came up all the time. To be creative, you have to be curious about things. Ask questions. Right, Dixon? Wonder about things. Look a little deeper. Explore. That's what we do here. That's why you're all here. And your stories are just wonderful. I happen to pick really good people from the summit because every week I say, I met these people for exactly 2 minutes on the clock. I was typing furiously. Dixon did this and Joanne did this. And Susan, you want to come on the show? Yes, good. You booked. Okay. Next room, 17 breakout rooms, 3.5 hours. I booked 38 people. My goodness. And then it was weeks of, but I never really know who you are until you show up here. And I'm just delighted. So, okay, show's over. No,
thanks for having us, by the way. This is so great. I love sharing with other creatives, right? That's so cool.
See, that's why we do it here. Now let's go on to the part of the show where I've asked you. And Dixon, do you want to tell people why you're a one-name wonder? Can I ask you that, or would you rather not?
Yeah. So everyone says, "Oh, Dixon, that's different. What is that?" I'm like, it's actually my last name. So my first name's Brian, but in my story of going to sleep for 25 years, I associate my first name with that part of my life. So I just kind of dropped it off. Brian was the responsible people pleaser who let everyone else drive the bus of his life. Dixon is the adventurer, author, and speaker who took control and decided to actually live his life before it's too late. So that's
very nice. And we're going to go to your opening quote, and I think it will mesh nicely with what you're talking about. So Dixon, and by the way, I invented akaRadioRed years ago when I was on another channel broadcasting years before I went to Voice America. Now I'm independent, but I noticed that they were sorting the names in alphabetical order. I'm an early woman in tech. I was a programmer analyst back in the day where I was coding in COBOL on a Xerox Sigma 6 CP5 mainframe and keep punching my 2,000 lines of code every Monday and running programs by noon on Monday for big systems. Yeah, I'm a kid from back then, and I loved what I did. But when I started doing radio years later, and it was radio on the phone, it wasn't Zoom. Eventually it was Skype, but now it's Zoom, and now I call this video or video cast. That's what I call it. I don't like the word podcast. But why was I even telling you this story? I have no idea.
The two lives you just described are very different. You were an engineer, and now you're a creative.
I'm engineering the show too. So there you go. But I came up with akaRadioRed because of the red hair and because of the word radio. And then I said, well, I want to go to the top of the sort list. So I put in AKA, also known as, and I kept it over the years. And that's how so it was, if you were looking alphabetically at the list of hosts, and there were hundreds of them on this other channel, I would go toward the A list at the top. And that's why I created the name. Just I wanted you to know, Dixon. There you go. But D is a good letter to start with. Okay, let's go to your quote. You have picked a quote from Andy Dufresne, played by Tim Robbins, speaking to Ellis Red, speaking of Red Redding, played by who else? Morgan Freeman. The movie is the 1994 drama film, The Shawshank Redemption, written and directed by Frank Darabont, based on Stephen King's 1982 novella, Rita Hayworth, talk about a redhead, and Shawshank Redemption. Andy Dufresne is a banker sentenced to life in the penitentiary for the murders of his wife and her lover. He claims innocence. He meets the contraband smuggler, fellow prisoner Red Redding, and becomes instrumental in a money laundering operation led by Samuel Norton, Bob Gunton, the prison warden, and all that. It's considered one of the greatest films ever made. It's the highest rated movie on IMDb with a 9.3. I don't know if you knew that, Dixon. And it
I
has
didn't know that.
2.4 million ratings, the highest for any movie. I found this a couple years ago, so it might have been displaced. So here's the quote, and I think this goes very well with what you just told us. You say, I guess it just comes down to a simple choice, really. Get busy living or get busy dying. Okay, Dixon, I'm letting you take over. I'm putting you on speaker view again. How does this relate to you? I think we can all connect the dots, but force yourself. Tell us. Go.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, that couldn't be more true for someone who just falls asleep and goes down a rabbit hole of life, wrong career, wrong person. I really felt imprisoned like Andy Dufresne, really. I mean, I felt wrongly imprisoned, but I was the one who did it. So when you imprison yourself, you know, things can become pretty desperate and pretty sad. And in my case, I just really thought, wow, I don't know how I'm ever going to get out of this. So I had some great parts of that. I mean, the woman I married, you know, I did for the wrong reasons, not necessarily out of love and more out of obligation, let's say. But I had 3 great kids. But I'll tell you, the first atomic bomb for me was the 2008 financial crash. So I was in the wrong career with the wrong person, and then bankruptcy, foreclosure, unemployment, and severe depression all hit during that time. And then it was a few years later that I had that pulmonary embolism. So all of that, I was inside of that for years, just going, how am I ever going to get out of this? So I was actually a little relieved, let's say, when the 2008 financial crash, I was a mortgage broker at that time. It took away my job overnight. So, you know, couldn't originate loans or anything like that. And so my life just kind of went from riches to rags overnight. And I was just like, wow, that's actually great, because I hated the life I was living.
Wow.
Kind of crazy, right?
The fates intervene. Sometimes life does that for us, doesn't it? We just don't expect things to happen. I don't know, people call it karma, but it's not really karma. Sometimes I'll tell you all some stories after the show I can't talk about on the air. Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on. Joanne has sent a quote from Farmer Arthur Hoggett, played by James Cromwell. The movie is Babe, 1994 comedy drama film. Directed by Chris Noonan, co-wrote it with George Miller. It's an adaptation of Dick King Smith's 1983 novel, The Sheep Pig. You know, there's a new movie out called The Sheep Detectives. It just came out about a week ago, I think. This is a story of a farm pig who wants to do the work of a sheepdog. It's narrated by Roscoe Lee Brown. The main animal characters are played by real animals, okay, and animatronic puppets. And let's see now, a sequel didn't do as well. Babe, Pig in the City, with most of the actors and the animals reprising their roles. Let's go to the quote and see what Joanne's going to do with this. That'll do, Pig. That'll do. Joanne, completely mystified. What does this have to do with your curiosity? Bail me out here. Go.
I tell myself that ever since I saw the movie, that is the thing I tell myself when I start to go into perfectionism and just imposter syndrome. I actually said it to myself last night. I'm working on the 2nd volume in my Please Help Me Die Well series. The first one was for nurses and professionals. The second one is for family members who are taking care of a dying loved one. And I'm done with it. But I keep going back through and changing things. And so I got to a point where I just said, that'll do, Pig, that'll do, to stop myself, because it just feels like there is no good ending point. There are all these possibilities, all these things I want to say, and it could just keep going on and on and on. So that'll do, Pig, it's my little boundary I put on myself kindly.
Very, very interesting. I'm not promoting any station or any people, but there's a new show on CNN Saturday nights called Kara Swisher wants to live forever. And she's a technology reporter, if you don't know her, Kara with a K and Swisher with an S. And she was doing different things, barometric chambers and different things that people are doing. She's experimenting, she's going places. But she was with somebody who created an avatar and had her train her own avatar to sit there. And she was speaking with the avatar, said to the avatar, "Can you smile?" And the avatar said, "I am smiling." And the avatar was... And she said, "I guess I have to teach you how to smile." But my point in saying that was in part of the show. I just happened to tune it on. I was working Saturday night and I have a couple monitors here. I put it on the other monitor. I never watched it. And she was saying to people, how would you like to die if you had a choice? Not where or when, but how. What would you like to be doing? And it was interesting what people were thinking and saying. I don't remember a lot, but one woman said she wanted to go in the middle of a big O, and we all know what a big O is. So we'll leave that one to the imagination, or maybe not. So Susan, you've married, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, it was just very interesting. How do you want to go? And so interesting about, yes, I'm just flumping around here. Okay,
not a small O, right? That was
a big one. If you're gonna have let's go on. I'm getting in a lot of trouble here. This is a clean show. Susan, I'm going to save myself by asking you to talk about your quote. This quote is a very well-known Dorothy Boyd, played by Renee Zellweger, in the movie Jerry Maguire, 1996 sports, romantic, comedy, drama film. They couldn't put enough genres together to describe this film. Directed and written by Cameron Crowe. Let's see now. Jerry Maguire was inspired by an experience with the real sport agent Lee Steinberg, a technical consultant for the film, and his client Tim McDonald, who actually made a cameo appearance during the 1993 NFL season when free agency was introduced. It was also inspired by a 28-page memo written at Disney in 1991 by Jeffrey Katzenberg. Stars are Tom Cruise, Cuba Gooding Jr., Renee Zellweger, Kelly Preston, Jerry O'Connor, Jay Moore, Bonnie Hunt, Regina King. It was the 9th highest grossing film of 1996, Susan. It grossed I would have loved to have been an investor on this one. It grossed $273 million on a $50 million budget. Can you do the math? It has a cult following that has spawned a lot of catchphrases, one of which is your quote for the day. And the quote Susan has selected is, "You had me at hello." So what or who had you at hello in your creative journey? Susan, talk to us.
Oh, well, this is going to sound very far-fetched and romantic, but this is true how it happened. I met my husband in college, and we were standing in line to get a soda, and he's very outgoing and turned around and started talking to me. And we sat down and we talked for 3 hours just about, families and whatever you talk about when you just meet somebody for 3 hours. And I just thought, this is a guy that's comfortable in his own skin, got a great sense of humor. Yeah. And I rode home that night with my roommate, and she said to me, "Did you have a good time tonight?" I said, "Actually, I really did. I met the guy I'm going to marry." And she goes, "What? I leave you alone for 3 hours and you figure out the rest of your life?" I said, "No, not now. Not now. I'm sophomore in college. I got a lot of work to do. No, I can't be." We didn't lay eyes on each other for a year. And even at that, it was 30 seconds. And he said, "Oh, I'll be back to school in September. I'll see you then." I didn't even know he wasn't at school. And he came back 9 months later. So it was a year and a half. And we bumped into each other. He said, "Do you want to go for coffee?" And that was it. So on Friday, it's 55 years. So I don't know how you have me at hello.
Wow. I have to ask, I think everybody wants to know, who did the actual proposal? Did you propose to him or did he propose for you? Who said the words, "Will you marry me"?
I did kiss him first. I did tell him I loved him first, and he proposed.
I like that story a lot. Thank you all for the very interesting quotes. The new one was Joanne's, and the other ones I've heard before. So thank you very much. Let's move on to our round table here. We got plenty of time. Dixon, I'm combining your creativity statement number 3 and 4 because I like them, and I'm going to read both of them. I'd like you to unpack, respond, expand, whatever you'd like to do, and then I will ask Joanne and Susan, both ladies, if this means anything to you, if you do the same thing or if you do something opposite. So let's make this into a real round table. Dixon says the following: "Creativity strikes in the middle of the night and atop a daily MTB ride. And then he adds, music and nature combined in a daily commitment to my health brings so many ideas to the brain. It's a creativity generator and it's endless. Dixon, talk to us. Tell us more. These are fascinating. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it starts because I ride my mountain bike every day. I live in Colorado here, and I'm a big biker. And I stopped thinking like, man, it's pretty selfish to like disappear from the world for 2 hours every day. But I've learned in my life that it's a win-win-win on all fronts, right? So, of course, staying in shape is great. Being out in nature is great. I usually have my little music in. So I'm listening in one earphone for some of my favorite 1980s tunes because I'm an older guy. But I'll tell you, most of my creative ideas come to me in the middle of that while I'm out breathing hard, looking around, listening to music. And I'll be like, whoa, I got to write that down. And so I use Siri sometimes, and I stop my music and say, Siri, make a note. And it's doing it now. But that wanted to say. See, Siri saying, what do I want to say?
Beautiful.
So yeah, that's kind of how all my ideas, business wise and creativity wise, will come. And I think when I first started my journey of writing this book in October, every bike ride I went on, I'm like, new title for the book. And then the next one, new title, like 40 times. But, that's all good, right?
It is all good. And that creative journey, that corny way we talk about that is you'll keep figuring out ways to name the book until one of them sticks, or you're just out of time and you'll say, that's it. And look at all the almost titles. And by the way, today in 19 something or other, Gene Roddenberry was trying to name the captain character of the Enterprise for Star Trek. And Kirk was one of the 16 names he proposed at that day and time. I have a show in the morning called Say What? Good News. And I do little itty bitty stories that nobody's heard of and some things about that date in history. That's where I got the birthdays from that show. And it was one of my openings for May 18th is when Roddenberry said, maybe we'll call him Kirk, and the rest is history.
When do you sleep? How many shows do you have? I'm losing track here.
I have 7 live shows a week. I'll talk to you afterwards. Yeah, only 7. 5 dailies and a Monday and a Wednesday. I'm a very boring person. Joanne, talk to me. Anything about what the exercise, the nature, the heavy breathing, anything that Dixon said resonate with you? I'm picking up on the good stuff here. Joanne, and then Susan, what do you think?
Everything he said resonated. Mm-hmm. I wake up in the middle of the night and I have to keep a pad of paper by my bed. It'll come, or in the morning I'll be like half awake and this whole thing will just like download and I get up and write it down really quick. Walking, I'm a hiker. I'm not a biker, but I'm a hiker. And when I'm hiking, being out in nature, being in the forest, being by the water, the ideas come like crazy.
Thank you. Susan, what about you? When do your ideas come?
Well, they can come at any time. But I too agree with that, the next to the bed things, because sometimes things happen. The lights are shut off, but I'll turn them back on and write them down. But I really buy into the nature thing. There's just a whole lot now on nature bathing. Get out in nature. And if you're feeling down, get out and do anything outside. It just absolutely revives the spirit. Some of the best thing, and I don't really walk with music. I know a lot of people always have the earbuds in, and I have to say I don't, because sometimes I just like to let things come to me without anything else, and that seems to work real well.
There you go. I want to read something I was going to read at the end of the show, but since you all mentioned it about those little ideas, Dixon, this is in your honor. David Byrne, David Byrne from Talking Heads, the front man. David Byrne was a guest about a year ago, 2023 actually, on somebody named Stephen Johnson's podcast called How Ideas Happen. And I'm going to quote from that interview. David Byrne said, "Sometimes I have just the titles of a song that comes to me and I write it down and I go to myself, expand on that. I think there's something there." Is that resonating with anybody here? And he says, and I have in my computer a whole lot of music ideas that may have a melody, a nonsense word melody, awaiting words, but usually I need something to start with. It's hard to start from nothing. I accumulate these very little beginnings, and when I come back, I've got something to build on. And I think that's another way of saying what you all said. And one more comment was, our minds fizz with fragments of ideas, puzzles to ponder, clues on how to fix a problem. Most of us undervalue that chatter. Writers and artists systematically capture the little beginnings. What do you think of that? Pretty cool. Dixon, did that talk to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Stand-up comedians are like that too. I've done a little stand-up in my time, and I'm like, you.
So did I. Where did you perform?
Boulder and around Fort Collins here. I want to get back into it for sure. It's one of my favorite things, but you know how someone will say something and then a stand-up comic will just write it down and it'll become this cool bit.
Yep.
You know?
Cool bits is what we want. Yeah. I don't do stand-up anymore. I just try to be funny sitting down, and so far it's working for me. No, I did shows at small clubs in New York and Manhattan. I went to Steve Rosenfeld's American Comedy Institute and took the 3-week course. And at the end of at the end of 3 weeks, we had to book ourselves into either the Comedy Store or Caroline's or another major comedy club and bring family and friends. I was on stage at Caroline's, the famous Caroline's nightclub in New York, 54th Street, I think is where the old Ed Sullivan Show used to be. And I brought a table full of family and friends, and they had to pay like real people. And I was on stage with 10 startup comedians, and we had a bookend, an opening MC and a closing one. And we got 3 minutes with the blue light. And then I was invited to do little shows around New York, and got a parking ticket at one of them because my friend with me didn't read the sign right. She was too short to, never mind. And it was a lot of fun. And then I had my own comedy troupe, and we did a terrible thing. We did a terrible thing. We booked ourselves into a Borders bookstore on Long Island on I think it was a Memorial Day holiday. It was a free comedy show. Newsday newspaper, the big newspaper on Long Island, New York, promoted it. 250 people showed up with beach chairs and stormed into Borders. And the people there were horrified because they didn't sell enough coffee and cake because we took over with our little stage and with a karaoke machine, me and my partner and 10 comedians. And they paid us in cash. My partner Sheila and I split the cash, and we gave the gift certificates to all the comics. And they went throughout the store. They bought books, they bought magazines, they bought records, they bought CDs. Everybody won. And then we started getting booked in public libraries and small places. It was a lot of fun. So that was, I'll tell you the name of that in another time.
Cool.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. I also had a TV show on Great Neck Cable called What's So Funny? And I did that for several years. And I took improv from Michael Gelman from Chicago Second City. I took improv training, and we did improv character actors on my show. It was a lot of fun. Lot of fun. Had a blast. And I was the engineer too. It was great. Okay, Joanne, get me out of trouble here. Joanne, I have 2 of your statements here. One we've covered a little bit, but I want to go into more depth. Your statement number 1 is, I feel the most creative when I'm in or around water. But let's add the following. Some of my most creative thoughts come while I'm washing dishes, showering, I had a guest last week say that, or snorkeling in the ocean. And let's do that one first, and then I'll add one more. So talk to us about when you're doing dishes. Do you do them by hand? Do you load them in a dishwasher? I have to know. Joanne, talk to us.
If it's only when I'm washing them by hand that the ideas come, because I have to have the running water on my hands. And it invariably, something will come to me. If I'm standing there with warm water running on my hands, it brings ideas. I don't know why, it just does. It's a very similar thing to snorkeling in warm water. I lived in the Virgin Islands on St. Croix for 10 years to be with my grandchildren while they were growing up and be close to them because my son is a PA there. And I went snorkeling every day in the Caribbean, and had all my favorite turtles and animals and fish that I would visit in the ocean. And it just something about being in that warm water and having it flow over me brought all this creativity up. And I would then get out of the water and go and write down everything that I thought about. But water, I think being a Coast Guard kid, we were always around water. But when I discovered the warm water of the Caribbean, it changed everything. It's like, this is heaven for me.
Lovely. Let's go around. Susan, anything about water that resonates with you?
Oh, everything about water.
There we go.
Blessed to have my own pool. And now in New Hampshire, it hasn't reached 60 yet. It's open and looks pretty, but it hasn't reached 60. It will this week, and I will go in. But all year long, I do water aerobics 3 times a week. I never water that I didn't go in. I just love water. I find it terrifically relaxing. I just did cold dips down on the Cape Cod at 48 degrees, and it was quick, but it water's lovely, just great.
Lovely. Dixon, water with you. What do you think?
Oh yeah, man, that's so cool. It's like mountains and beach, right? I mean, both of them have their own for you, but whenever I can get around the ocean, because I'm landlocked, I'll take a surf lesson and just take it all in the way I do on my bike. I mean, it's a whole nother way of bringing out that creativity too.
Thank you very much, Joanne. I'm going to add one more to you, and then we'll go on to Susan. And the other one you said is my inspiration creativity started with my voracious reading habits instilled in my childhood. We didn't have a TV. Those habits have followed me to this day. So let's talk just briefly around the table. Joanne, you can start. And what about reading habits as a child? How did they stay with you, and what does that mean to you today in terms of learning and curiosity?
My mother would not, she just decided that TV was bad for our brains. And so we didn't have a TV. And she would take us to the library once a week, and we'd come home with this big stack of books. She insisted that they were biographies or autobiographies or true stories in some way. And I just voraciously read those stories. I loved them. And there was something about it being real, being true stories, that really inspired me that I could do those things too. Little House on the Prairie, and she became a writer. It's just so many of the stories, the person became a writer. And I think my brain stayed in gear because of that. And I thought my mother was being really mean at the time, because all my friends would talk about TV shows that I knew nothing about. But it really, I am so thankful now for that 12, 14 years of just digesting really good stories and learning how really good storytellers tell stories. It just became part of my DNA to know how to tell a story.
Very well put. Thank you. Dixon, any reaction to that? And then Susan?
Yeah, I used to read the Great Brain series back in the day, and it was about this kid. It turns out he's in a Mormon family or something, but it was all about this detective life that he would go out and adventure in. And I got into getting lost in books like that. And I'm like, man, I would love to write like this, to where I could get lost, right? Those are the coolest books.
They are. They absolutely are. Susan, what about you? Any early reading habits?
Yeah, similar to Joanne, my mother used to take me to the library and come home a stack of books. And as I look back, I think so many of them were biographies of historical women. And I think that probably had an impression on me, even at an early age, that geez, women are strong and they can do anything. And so I never thought any differently. And reading, I'm guilty sometimes of reading, like right now, 4 books at a time. As long as they're different genres, I can them. And but it's a luxury to read. It's just a luxury.
It is. And I'm remembering, I think we subscribed to the Book of the Month Club when I was probably 8 or 9 years old. And I used to pick a lot of biographies. I remember the story of Crazy Horse, and I also had the Nancy Drew books. Oh, yeah. And we had the World Book Encyclopedia with the shiny pages. We didn't have Google in those days, remember? And we didn't have any of those lookups. It was just a whole different way of getting knowledge. You were either in school, you were reading a book, or you were looking it up in an encyclopedia. Interesting. Thank you very much for that. And I want to move on to Susan's creativity statements. And I have one here that I don't think the other two will relate to, but I want to bring this up because it's so cool. Susan says she was creative when she made all her prom dresses and her wedding gown. We really need to know about that very briefly before we move on. Go ahead, Susan. Dixon saying, what? I didn't make a wedding gown. Go ahead, Susan.
Yeah, my parents got me a sewing machine when I was young, and everybody had nice clothes, and I thought if I want some of these things, I'm going to have to make some of them. And I liked the sewing, so I did. And yeah, one year I was invited to the junior prom and then the senior prom. So of course you have to have two different dresses. So the only way I was going to get that was go to the store, buy the material, and make the dresses, and I did. And then by the time I was getting married, I was living in a dorm connected to Yale Medical Center, and I was not doing anything else but going through a tunnel to work and sleeping. And I said, great time to make my wedding gown. So I did. That's how.
Very, very interesting. Necessity is the mother of the wedding gown. I think we could say something like that. Dixon, any crafts that you do that would remind you of doing something like that?
Crafts.
Yeah, anything that you craft, like inspiration to make something on your own. I do have one more from Susan, but I'm just curious.
No, but I will say we probably aren't getting a lot of younger people tuning in to our chat about Encyclopedia Britannica and libraries.
Stop. Oh,
People are like,
stop.
who? What is that?
We actually
We
have a lot
read
of
books.
we have a lot of people watching live. Oh, poo on that. Joanne, anything that you made, anything that you created or crafted that had inspiration in it?
I actually sewed also. I had my own sewing machine and I made my wedding dress. And I made my fiance's suit that he wore, complete with welt pockets. It was hard. That's the hardest thing I ever did.
Wow.
But yeah.
And I used to sew aprons as Christmas gifts for my teachers when I was in elementary school. You were allowed to give gifts at the holidays. And my mom and I used to get patterns, and I had a whole I went through 4 sewing machines. I wore out the steel in them over the years. And I used to make all my own clothes. And when I was married and living in New Haven, my husband was a student at Yale University, Susan. He found a treadle sewing machine for me at a Goodwill. And I was making some I'll call them schmatzes, house dresses on a treadle. Dixon, you know what a treadle is? You rock the pedal.
Kind of goes in a.
No, you rock the pedal back and forth like this, and it powers the machine. So I had, and I still have my mother's 1944 Singer in the desk that opens up. I was an avid sewer, and I made party dresses for my daughter as well. Dixon, you missed out on that one. One more from Susan, and Susan says, I'm creative in writing my blog every 2 weeks. I write in my peaceful office without music. So why don't you unpack that and something about having a writing schedule? Susan, talk to us about how that spurs creativity.
My schedule is probably every day. I'm not one of these people that every day I get up and at 9 o'clock I'm writing. I'm often at water aerobics at 9 o'clock in the morning, but I'm in a very peaceful room that one of my friends named the Nantucket room. It's very soft blue. And so it's very relaxing, and I get to look out at my pool. And sometimes, now that the weather's nice, I will go outside and write. And so the blog, I have a writing group of 2 dear friends committed to writing. And so we meet every week, and that regularity is just terrific, because when you're meeting with some people, you produce. And so I do that regularly. And having that biweekly blog just keeps me on track and focused.
There you go, on track and focused. Dixon, does having a schedule for writing resonate with you in any way?
Yeah, I'm having to relearn all this because I was such a big writer in college and high school. And then, I fell asleep for a long time. And now that it's back, I had to retrain myself. And one good thing is I just launched myself to the world as an author on Substack on Friday.
Oh, nice.
And that's going to keep me on track to put out content weekly or every 2 weeks.
What's the title of your Substack?
My first essay was called The Doing of Someday. So instead of talking about someday, actually doing it.
Someday, 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 correct?
Yeah, The Doing of Someday was the essay.
I will look for it. Very, very interesting. Joanne, what about having a regular system or a process or a method or a schedule of writing? Do anything for you?
I try to, but I'm juggling a lot of plates. I'm working full-time still as a hospice nurse. And so I'm juggling my writing time in and around that. And so I just kind of take every chance I get. And then when my brain gets too tired, I go watch a movie.
Interesting.
Play with my dog. I have a Bernese mountain dog, and I take her for a walk.
Nice. There's the mountain word came up again. I find that the Writer's Digest poetry prompts are very inspirational to me. I come up with themes, and It's an interesting group of people. They're writing about things. A lot of them are very serious. Some of them are very morose, very sad poems. They're historical poems, they're religious poems, they're political poems, and I tend to do on the funny side. And I created when we were, I think it was March before the April Poem a Day started. I had a dialogue going with me, myself, I, and we, and they were trying to find a boyfriend, and they were thinking of the guy who was the ice cream truck guy. So I looked up all the names of all the new flavors of the ice creams, and they thought he was flirting with them and not with all the girls behind them and they all had something to say. I think this, me, as far as me, my dears, my was my dear, and then we said, I think we should go get a cup of tea and put some gin in it and forget about all this. And then they were looking at the Walmart ice cream guy. So I had this whole dialogue going, and I did about 30 of those. And it was a lot of fun. But my point is that having a regular goal is important to me. And I think we're all looking at that. And Dixon, it does help. If any of you want the link, I'll send you the link to the Writer's Digest weekly poetry group. And it's just free form. It's just a free group, and you just go in and you do that. But and I'll tell you one more thing. We're just about ready to wrap up here. I wanted to write a play, a romantic comedy play, about 8 years ago, and I had no clue. So I went online late one night, and I was working full time. I went on about midnight, and I said, how do you write a play? And I found a Playwriting 101, a guide, and it was a downloadable, either a PDF or a Word doc. It was free. And I put it on my computer, and I learned how to do the spacing, the font, how to set up the scene, how to describe the characters, how to open the curtain, close the curtain, how to go from act to act to act. And in 3 nights, I wrote my first play. I wrote from 1 till 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was working full time as marketing for a big bank in New York. And what's interesting to me, and we haven't talked about this, but maybe a future show, the characters channeled themselves through me. I did not make anything up. They told me who they were, what they looked like, what they talked like, what they were wearing, how they were interacting with each other. And it was in a cab. And my director, my friend who just passed away recently, went to Manhattan, and he took video of noises and scenes in front of Penn Station and noises of buses and cars and beeping taxis. And we had it in my TV studio with a big green curtain, and the actors were sitting on chairs in an empty studio, and the cab driver was sitting on a chair, and I bought a little plastic steering wheel from a toy store. And and I told him they wouldn't have to memorize anything, so we had teleprompters where the audience couldn't see them. And I cast them, and I directed them, and I coached them, and we did it. And then we edited it down to 26 minutes, and I did 5 plays, and I will send you all the links afterwards. It was a
that sounds cool.
Fascinating experience, and they're fun, and they're funny too. So let me go to my closing here. We got about 4 minutes. We're not done yet, but I have some things to read to all of you. It's my turn. Lucy Maud Montgomery wrote Anne of Green Gables, 1908. She's a Canadian author. Some of you may have heard of her. Anne of Green Gables, the title. Chapter 19. Interesting title. Susan, I think you'll like this one. A concert, a catastrophe, and a confession. How about that for a title? And here's the quote. This is dedicated to all of you. Something just flashes into your mind. So exciting, and you must out with it. If you stop to think it over, you spoil it all. Isn't that what has to do with some of our creative notions? And then Rapunzel in the movie Tangled, a 3D computer animated musical adventure fantasy comedy film voiced by Mandy Moore in 2010. And she said, venture outside your comfort zone. The rewards are worth it. Right, Dixon? I think we know that. And then the Rolling Stones, of course, said, you can't always get what you want, but if you try, sometimes you'll get what you need. Remember that one? And then Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, played by Billy Burke in the original Wizard of Oz from 1939, said, you had the power all along, my dear. And I already read you the David Byrne quote. And now let me read you a little acrostic that I wrote for my poetry group on July 24th. It's a Wednesday, 2024. And this was a night shift prompt. So I wrote an acrostic, NIGHTSHIFT. I love acrostics. I'll lean in when I change the letter so you'll hear it. Never quite really at rest. It's the life of a creative. Going, gripping, gyrating, growling, groaning, growing. Highs and lows. Flowing on a mental Mobius strip. The days or the nights or the days again. Shifting off and on, into and out of gear. Hoping for unique brilliance even once. It's a calling. Command, curse, roller coaster, finding eureka, euphoria amid frustration and fears. Thus, is the life of the creative. And I dedicate that to all of you. That was just a little quickie. And I have one more funny one. And this one was write a blank like blank poem. And I wrote an acrostic, and you'll like this one. BLANK, LIKE, BLANK. Here we go. Believe in love always. Never kiss a leprechaun in a kayak. Every boat's like a nervous kangaroo.
Great.
You had to be there real fast, kids. Okay, let's do our closing. We got 1 more minute here. I did this in 2014. This is 12 years ago. I used to close my show with the top 10 tips for women. And the number 1 tip applies today. It is aspire to be Barbie. The biatch has everything. And that was 10 years before they made the movie. There you go. And also, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade and add vodka. There we go. And final closing here. And stick around, please. We'll talk afterwards. Life is short. Break the rules. I think Dixon knows that, but it can be long if you come back. Life is short. Break the rules. Forgive quickly. I'm still trying to figure that one out. Kiss slowly. That one I know is true. Love truly. Laugh uncontrollably. Everybody laugh with me. 1, 2, 3. Susan, you're not laughing hard enough. Dixon, you gotta get it. Don't hurt yourself. And never, ever regret anything that made you smile. Final words. Work like you don't need the money. Dance like no one's watching. I was teaching disco in a high school cafeteria to 250 people, and they gave me a Formica table in the cafeteria to dance on. I said, make me a stage. They said, no. I said, you better. OSHA watching. Anyway, everybody watched. I never fell. Sing like nobody's listening. I didn't sing today. And love like you've never been hurt. We all have. Let your heart regrow, rejuvenate, come back. Susan's nodding. Money talks. Chocolate sings, la. And last but not least, I stole this line from somebody years ago. Thank you for turning me on. And let's go out to the music from my new show. Join me. You get the mug here. I do this show 5 times a week, 8:30 in the morning, 4.5 minutes. Come on, dance with me. The lyrics are coming in a second.
We're doing 4 minutes.
Morning coffee in my cup. Decaf, please. Scrolling. I've had enough. Same old drama. Same old feed. Flip that dial. That's what we need. Turn it up. Let those bad vibes fade. Get rid of those headlines. We've had enough. Hit play. Say what? Good news. We talk it out. Lift that mood. Good people doing what they do. Say what? Feel that smile coming through. Everybody wave goodbye. We're out. This groove is for you. Bye-bye.